Meet Dr. Hassan Anifowose, who will be speaking on digital transformation in AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction. Dr. Hassan Anifowose, a highly skilled architect and VR developer, holds a PhD in construction science from Texas A&M University, demonstrating his expertise in architecture, visualization, and construction. He is the founder of Kronos Studios, an internationally recognized design and visualization company. He serves as the VDC manager at Clark Construction for the $2.5 billion Houston Terminal B Airport Transformation Project. He specializes in producing immersive training simulations and educational experiences, leveraging his deep understanding of architecture and design. Hassan is committed to exploring innovations in BM, virtual reality, mixed reality, and artificial intelligence, while also mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs and enhancing project performance through digital twins.
I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Thank you. Hi everyone, and good afternoon, good morning. Confirm you can hear me all loud and clear. You can see my screen. All is good to go. Today I'm going to be talking about digital transformation in AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction. I'm going to be highlighting 5 digital forces that you need to reckon with. And then at the end of my presentation, I'm going to be, giving you some takeaways of what to be on the lookout for in the future. So without further ado, I am going to begin. Quick introduction about myself, as the intro said. So I'm gonna, skip on this very quickly. Co-founder at Kronos Studios. I'm also VDC manager at Cloud Construction. Being a construction technology expert, I run the virtual design and construction unit in Houston, which is the central region. And majority of my focus is on model coordination between all the trades on very complex projects. I also support some other projects on the West Coast and on the East Coast. So in addition to what I do primarily, I also initiate, I'll call it pilot sessions for virtual reality. I do take a lot of field capture technology efforts on, and I also deploy drones for projects as needed. So here we go. I'm going to say with this statement, a very bold and open statement here, in the digital transformation in AEC is here to stay. It's not something we're going to fight. It's not something we can avoid. It's not something we can shy away from. I know Dr. Benga had shown, the innovation between the television, the toilet seats, and you can see how far the AEC industry is behind in innovation. However, I think we're catching up a little bit, and I think there's been some significant growth in the past couple of years. And I'm glad to say that as of today, nearly every tool or process that I use is accessed from the cloud. Nearly everything. I literally can go from point A to point B with nothing, maybe except a mobile phone, and all I need is to latch onto the cloud, and I have access to everything that I use to get my stuff done. So that is something that we all need to start thinking about. And I'm talking, cloud access. So here is some statistics from an Autodesk report that says over 70% of construction firms now use cloud-based collaboration tools. And if you compare that to what the report said in 2020, it was 30%. So what happened? What spanned this much growth between 2020 and 2025? Of course, there was COVID, right? And everybody was at home, indoors, couldn't go to the job site, couldn't go to the office, things like that. And we learned how to collaborate online, right? And this is a very, very good indication that the construction industry is waking up. And I think it's the responsibility lies on each and every one of us to push a lot of this innovation. You might find out that most of my presentation content today is going to be construction related, just because that's where I'm my most recent endeavors are focused. However, I do still have a very, very strong design background, value engineering background. So don't think that I'm trying to like shove construction down your throats, but that's just a reflection of where my most current efforts are today. All right. So again, in Dr. Benga's opening, he mentioned about mandate the government mandating beam, and there is nothing more true than that. In fact, at the point it started to look like we talked about our presentations, right? No, we did not. I'm just watching his presentation live as well. BIM, which stands for Building Information Modeling, for people who do not know, is the backbone of the AEC industry. And the reason why I'm highlighting the high is that information is what really, really makes BIM to be BIM. It's not the model, it's not sitting behind the software. It's actually the level of information that is inside all of the assets in that design or in that project. And that information right now is what I can tell you is driving a lot of the innovation that we're getting today. So Beam should no longer be an option. It should be a standard. And yes, if there are policies in place that ensures or enforces that this is the standard for all projects, I think that's going to do the AEC industry a whole lot of favor. So if you're a policymaker, if you're in those corridors of power to make those decisions, I'm begging you to please start to push for beam adoption in everywhere, in the schools, in the workplaces, in the government parastatals. Let's try to make it the benchmark, the basis of everything that we're starting off on if we're going to talk about being innovative. So let's talk about Beam and its integration across project life cycles. Beam doesn't typically end at the design phase or the costing phase. In the early phase, that's not where Beam really ends. Beam gets extended into the entire path of a project lifecycle. And the first one I'll talk about is construction coordination, which enables us to have detailed planning and sequencing and helps construction teams to avoid clashes and reduce rework on site. Don't let anybody tell you that, oh, I've been building for 25 years, Beam is just another fancy word. I bet you that person is not efficient. I can tell you that for sure. That person is accumulating a lot more work, accumulating a lot more change orders or client cost that impacts the client. That person is not working very smart. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you, oh, I've built for 30 years, Beam is just another fancy thing. No, they're not building efficiently. With Beam, you can literally make your project experience superpowers of all the capabilities that Beam has to offer. Okay, we're talking 4D, 5D simulations. You can start to simulate time and cost with how your building is going to be built, how much cost your client is expected to spend at a certain time, maybe in the finishing stage. That helps them to drive information about how much money we need to be asking the bank at this phase, right? Just because of the comparison between the time and the cost. So beyond the 3D model, we're talking extensive integration of other dimensions, which is time and cost, and having that embedded into the information that you have inside your building project. That is how you can start to make really, really smart decisions. And guess what? Your client comes back when you're able to help them win and save money and still be very efficient. So for prefabrication, one thing I'll tell you is a well-prepared project that has really, really utilized Beam can manufacture offsite and just ship and assemble. That is a huge plus when it comes to project timelines. Majority of projects, when you start fabricating on site, when you start making things, pulling stuff together on site, that is something that is going to take a lot more time than anticipated. So one other thing is that your client likely now has BIM requirements. Okay, so if you start working for large corporate companies, there's a high probability that they have BIM requirements based on maybe their corporate head office rules and things like that. So it's best for you to prepare yourselves to have those type of clients and work with them. Okay, so The second one is cloud and collaboration platforms. So cloud tools definitely allow all the project stakeholders to start to work on the same tasks and the same models or the same data in real time. And the power of maybe we've all experienced the power of Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, having two or more collaborators at the same time. And now imagine being able to work across different time zones, right? Maybe you have a supporting team in Japan, or on the East Coast, or Dubai, or the United States, or Nigeria, or Abuja. Being able to collaborate from anywhere is super, super important these days. Collaboration, again, Dr. Benga said, collaboration is key, right? And today, that is one of the major deciding factors of being successful in the AEC industries. If you can efficiently stop working in a silo, whereby that work is dependent on one person taking a laptop, taking a file, moving from point A to point B, that effort starts to depend on teams working from anywhere, working at any time, and having real-time access to a model or information. That is where your teams should start going. So if you're working in a company, start pitching that to your superiors. If you're leading a team, start pitching that to your subordinates. Let everybody start to understand that being able to collaborate on cloud, on platform tools, is going to be a big game changer for everybody. Okay, so don't get left behind. Automated change tracking also helps people to understand who did what, right? Who changed what? Who fixed what? A lot of times, if you set up your project in such a way that you have basic beam execution plans or rules that says in a certain way, files are named this way, sheets are named this way, elements are named this way, assets are named this way. It really, really helps everybody to understand what the standards and requirements are, and then able to deliver to those standards. So it's not just working in the cloud and doing anything. There have to be rules that would support that process. Okay. So you can Google, BIM project execution plans, right? Those typical templates you can find online, and those will really help set up your project for success. Because one thing about collaboration online is, if you do not define the rules, people are bound to step on each other. People are bound to overwrite each other's works. Again, depending on how your environment is set up, your CDE, your common data environment, depending on how that is set up, you can avoid a lot of reworks and actually use the power of real-time collaboration. So read the rules, execute the rules, and you're going to be fine. All right. So some of the tools you might start looking at, Revit Collaboration Pro. Of course, you need a license for that to be able to do cloud work sharing in the file. You can learn Autodesk Construction Cloud. If you go to, I think, learn.acc.autodesk.com. I think I'm not certain about that URL, but if you Google Learn Autodesk Construction Cloud, you will come across a whole course load of content that helps you understand how cloud collaboration works for Autodesk platforms. Procore, being able to share the design sheets or drawing files, BIM 360, the same docs, being able to collaborate on live document, create markups without having to attach files to emails and then losing track of changes, right? Being able to work in one place is a big deal. All right, so let's talk about field automation and machine vision learning. Robotics do, here is a quick short video of that I took of one of the construction robot dogs that basically can help to inspect a job site and kind of identify your safety observation reports, identify risks or hazards on your job site, being able to take pictures of construction work ongoing, progress pictures, identify hotspots, dangerous work being done. That is a game changer again. And again, because of how these robots are designed, they can collect an immense amount of data, right? That can be fed back into your design or your project. That data can also help your field teams, your safety teams, your inspection teams to make very, very informed decisions. about what is actually going on the job site. With sensors, mobile apps, we have data collection going on an exponential scale right now. We have workers being able to wear like a simple wristband, and that data can get transmitted to a workforce manager or a foreman who can tell if his workers are getting tired in a specific area of the job site, right? Just by looking at some charts, they can tell if this person's gait or stamina is slowing down or changing, or this person even just had a near miss, right? They almost fell, they almost lost their step, or they almost fell. All these sensors on, wearables are starting to change how field work is done. Dusty Robotics, I was opportune to meet their directors in Denver, the key director in Denver, I think 3 years ago. Very pleasant woman, very amazing woman. Dusty Robotics is doing absolutely amazing stuff, helping to lay out, say, walls on a job site. So you have your slab on grade, or you have your concrete deck, and you want to start laying out your walls, right? If you feed your floor plans into that robot, it basically just goes out creating the layouts for you. Boasting Dynamics as well. You might have seen Spot the Dog. That is something that has gained a lot of traction. Did I lose my slide? Okay, so let's talk about autonomous drone mapping. Drone maps create can help understand construction progress. If you align that with design documentation and 3D models, you can start to map out site utilities, how it's laid out, equipment, site usage, and one of my favorite features of um, studying my post capture drone map is how you can use that to count and measure volumes of sand on your site, volumes of equipment, or even the number of vehicles on your job site to actually plan for an evacuation procedure. Um, there is so much you can do with drone maps. And excuse me, here was a picture of me initiating an autonomous drone flight, and that drone flight is pre-scheduled, is pre-mapped, which means that you're going to tell the drone where you want it to go, how many pictures you want it to take, where you want it to stop and take pictures, what type of pictures, what directions, and you just let it do its thing, right? The only thing now you're doing is supervising that operation, where typically in the past you probably would have to like take pictures, maybe climb a high place, take pictures, or even fly a drone manually and all of that. Now there are systems that are super intelligent that can help with all of that. So drone deploy, these are leaders in the space. Flypix AI, DJI Terra, depending on the type of drones that you use. Some of them also come inherently with automated autonomous capture tools, and you may not need third party software. So for progress tracking, again, autonomous drone mapping and progress tracking, they're subs on that under the field automation. So for progress tracking on the job side, this has become easier, especially with 360 capture tools. And the fun thing is that you can align those with your BIM models and actually start to check for discrepancies. You can know if a trade is not building in the right space. So if you've coordinated a model, or you've coordinated all your disciplines, your architecture, engineering, structural engineering, mechanical, plumbing, fire, you've all coordinated everybody in the right place, right? And then when you take field capture, 360 capture pictures of your job site, you can actually overlay them with your BIM models and see if anything is wrong. You can start to address that very quickly, especially if you have very frequent field capture days, which means that you can reduce the amount of rework that has to be done. If, for example, somebody misinterpreted a drawing and put an element in the wrong place, you can quickly detect that. And when we're talking about the AI enabled portion, Open Space, Disperse, Hexagon, Doxel, these are leaders in the space, and they do very good job tracking construction progress on your job site. So coming to the last one, or maybe second to the last, smart design and sustainability. With digital tools, you can simulate building performance early. You can know how much water your building is going to use up, how much energy is going to use up, what your carbon benchmarks are, even up to where you can decide, you can determine the method of construction based on your carbon projections, right? You can select low impact materials. You can start to learn how using offshore assembly or offshore fabrication is going to help your carbon footprint, right? So Autodesk Forma is a great entry point, especially if you're trying to like do generative design. I recall I had a task. We had an open ground where we needed some equipments to be shipped and laid down, right? And we needed a specific type of parking, which is bigger than the conventional parking, because if you're expecting 18 wheelers on the site, their turning radiuses are bigger than the regular vehicle. You know that these big construction trucks have larger parking spot requirements, and Autodesk Forma was something I just off the top of my head just went straight on to. I provided all the parameters, and with the test parking tool, you can actually start to automate or configure parking spaces depending on the parameters you create. Originally, the way you'd go about this is that you would, kind of start to draw lines and offset lines and then array and mirror and do all of that. But no, you don't want to go through all of that now, because if you do not embrace like faster design tools, you're basically going to be losing money to the next guy who is able to do that. So go ahead and learn Revit, learn Rhino Grasshopper. There's a plugin Rhino inside that works with Revit. You can actually use that to start your automation or your generative design learning curve. It's a little bit steep, so give yourself some time and grace. But I tell you, once you start, you don't want to go back. All right. So the last one is digital twins and assets. So beyond 3D models, integrating real-time data from sensors and systems to mirror the building's behavior starts to get important. You're able to determine things like humidity, airflow, temperature in your building just by having sensors across the building. Someone from 20,000 miles away can actually manage the building without having or to ever step foot in it, because of how much data is already included in your building model and how much you're able to integrate all of that, all those sensors and data into a system dashboard that can help you to monitor all of these assets. Facility managers are starting to get a hang of this, or starting to hop on the bandwagon, because of course it helps them to optimize energy use. If the occupancy of a building is dropping to 20% at the close of business, why do you have to leave all the lights on? Why do you have to leave all the generator supply or power supply on in that entire place when you can cascade that use just because of how much data or information you have to be able to do that? So that's what we're talking about: live data and digital twins. So there is a building and it's got a digital twin of itself somewhere on the cloud, somewhere in the model, and you're able to control a lot of things remotely using all of the data and information that you have in there. Sounds like utopia, right? Yeah, but Autodesk Tandem is leading the charge on that. I've been opportunity to do some testing on Autodesk Tandem in the past 3 weeks, and I can tell you guys, it's the way to go when we're talking about facility management for the future. So what's coming? Last slide. What's coming? What should you be on the lookout for? Seamless integration or cross-platform APIs. You can expect platforms to start to unify design, cost estimation, scheduling, and procurement within a single environment. And I can tell you, Autodesk is trying to do that. Autodesk is trying to lock everybody in. Procore is trying to do that as well, whereby you can do all your sheets, document management, your scheduling, your RFIs. You can request for information from the design team. You can issue submittals. You can do quality control. All of that within the same environment. That is something you can start to think of is going to happen, and it's going to become the norm, in the future. For value engineering, architect Dr. Benga also said something about value engineering. AI-led value engineering will gain more traction, and tasks are going to be faster and cheaper. You know, because now it doesn't cost you 20 days to do one thing, it costs you 3 days. So you might end up just charging for 3 days eventually. And think about the evolution from hand drafting to CAD to BIM. Now we're able to build more complex projects in shorter times, right? So when the data from past BIM projects starts getting fed into platforms that use AI, they can actually value engineer a building and say, no, it's too much glass, it's too much steel, it's too much, concrete. You can reduce this by this, you can reduce this by that, and you can achieve 20% cost saving. That is what a human is going to struggle to do on a day to day, right? So that level of value engineering is something you can be on the lookout for in the future. Evolving roles, talking about evolving roles, a lot of people ask, I'm wrapping up. A lot of people ask, is AI going to take my job? Well, it's getting more complex. There's no direct answer to that question. But as a designer, you will be expected to be able to code. As a contractor, you're going to be expected to analyze data from information, and collaboration is going to trump specialization. So you're going to have to collaborate with other people. You're going to have to collaborate with other experts. We're going to find out that there are people on our team, on our design team, who do not know how to design, but they know how to code. They can write scripts. They can help push out a concept model from Rhino to Revit, and they're on the design team, and yet they're getting paid for being able to do that. So don't think that you can start just burying your head into design. Design basically will get enabled by other tools. Okay. And lastly, you have to think beyond the tools now. You have to stay future proof in the sense that your ability to solve problems and have foresight will become very important. Professionals that are making data driven decisions will become sought after. They're going to start looking for people who can analyze data, who can look at a series of data and make a call. Say, this is going to help us save 15%. This is going to reduce our workforce by 20%. This is going to optimize our processes by 75%. And those are the people that are going to be taking on these lead roles in the design and construction industry in the nearest future. I hope my presentation has been insightful enough for you guys. It's not a one size fits all whereby you get all the answers to your questions, but I'll tell you to remain curious and inquisitive. And basically, this is the beginning. Thank you all very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today.